July. Tune in to KBC Channel 1 from 9:50 p.m. for a live Migori County gubernatorial debate from Rongo University. Every day, over 15 million members are transforming Africa. $15 million members, empowered to learn, to grow, to harvest, to lead, to dream. Equity. Karibu member.
Hujambo mtazamaji na karibu kwa taarifa zetu za adhuhuri leo, ikiwa ni tarehe 7 mwezi wa 7 mwaka 2022. Leo ni siku ya Kiswahili duniani. If you like, it's World Swahili Day. That is why I have indeed started out with Kiswahili. Good afternoon. This is KBC Lunchtime News, a very comprehensive bulletin that we have lined up for you right here. And of course, the biggest news in the land is that some of the ballot papers are already here. Just 32 days to the general polls. My name is Njue, and Anwangeshi will be our sign language interpreter for this live newscast. And you can join in through our social media platforms as we are live. Now, straight to the news. We begin in Machakos County, where 3 people have died in a dawn car accident involving a 14-seater matatu at Kithini area along the Machakos Kyumbi Road, with 10 others sustaining injuries. According to the witnesses, the vehicle, which belongs to Namak Sacco, was speeding when the driver lost control, and as a result, the vehicle veered off the road and rolled several times. Initial investigations have indicated that the matatu had mechanical faults which could have led to the accident. And according to Machakos County Finance and Infrastructure CEC Naomi Mutie, the 10 people who sustained injuries are recuperating at the Machakos County Referral Hospital, while the bodies of the 3 were taken to Machakos Level 5 Hospital morgue. The vehicle was towed to the Machakos Police Station.
Wakati tumefika hapa, hiyo Nissan ilikuwa inatoka na side ya makutano. Ikachomoka mguu. So the driver alikuwa anajaribu kuicontrol. Ndio amekanyanga, I think ni brake amekanyanga, ikalol. So kutoka hapo sisi tulikuwa kwa maruti, then ndio tumetokeza tukaona venye imeumiza watu.
We evacuated 13 13 of the passengers who were seriously injured, and they were all evacuated to level 5. So I also want to take this opportunity to convey my condolences to the family of the departed. Otherwise, the vehicle rolled from the bridge onto the left side of the road.
From Machakos to Busia, where police have arrested 4 suspects who are believed to be behind the killing of 2 night guards at Matayo's Trading Center on Monday night. The 4, aged between 20 and 28 years, are believed to be among armed gangsters stealing from M-Pesa shops and robbing off business persons in Busia town.
According to Busia County Police Commander Maxwell Nyaema, the DCI and the Special Crime Unit nabbed the 4 in Uganda, Siaya County, where they were found in possession of stolen merchandise.
Officers wetu walifuata mpaka Siaya, area ya Ugenya. Hiyo vijana walipatikana na motorbike ambaye wanatumia, mumeiona vile wamefunika number plate. Sile vitu tumelikaba, mumeona iko mafuta, iko uniform ya serikali. Bado uchunguzi unaendelea, maana hatujatosheka mpaka tupate wote wako pamoja nao.
The 2 night guards were murdered on Monday night by unknown people before they broke into the shops and made away with the merchandise of unknown value. Matayo's area residents, through their area member of parliament Geoffrey Odanga, have urged Security Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i to intervene and to address the rising insecurity cases in Busia.
Sisi sasa, kwa sababu waliahidi ya kwamba wanafanya kila jambo kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usalama umedumishwa katika eneo bunge la Matayos. Mimi sasa nafikiri tumepita kiwango cha kuhandle mambo haya na hawa watu wa hapa county. Sasa tunaelekeza mambo haya kwa waziri wa usalama.
The 4 suspects are expected to be arraigned before Busia Law Court to face murder charges allegations. Elvis Otieno for Lunchtime News.
And still on matter security, police in Embu County have launched a manhunt for a man suspected to be using sanitary towels in an alcohol processing plant in Owerri area in Mbeere North Sub-County. In an operation led by Embu County Commissioner Dr. Edson Njue, a house disguised as a church was raided and assorted alcohol brands recovered.
8 hours after securing a court order to search the house, a multi-agency operation led by Embu County Commissioner Dr. Edison Haron Ali was carried out in search of a man suspected to be using sanitary towels in illegal alcohol processing. Police managed to access a palatial house within the area belonging to the suspect and which serves as the alcohol processing zone. Dr. Ali said they were able to recover documents and CCTV footages to ascertain the type of activities carried out in the area.
Tumeangalia hata pia nyumba yake ya kifahari, nyumba ambayo kweli kabisa huwezi amini kwamba biashara hii inaweza kufanya jambo lile la madhara katika jamii. Tumechukua vyombo mbalimbali, tarakanishi, tumechukua CCTV ili tuweze kujua ile motherboard, tupate kujua ni biashara gani ambayo inafanya hapa, na tutajua tu karibuni.
Dr. Ali further mentioned that authorities in Embu County will not relent in the fight against illegal alcohol processing plants, adding that more than 10 people had been arrested and 5 plants shut down since May this year. Embu County Police Commander Daniel Rukunga said that police were on high alert and appealed to members of the public to work together with the Nyumba Kumi and police officers by providing relevant information.
Usalama inaanza na wewe mwenyewe ndio uende kwa mwingine. Kuna watu wa Nyumba Kumi, community policing, ambaye ni ushirikiano mwema baina ya polisi na wananchi. Kwa hivyo tupase polisi habari, sababu hata wewe mwenyewe usalama yako. Polisi wanalinda 25% 75% ni wewe mwenyewe mwananchi uweze kufanya nini? Kujikinga.
This comes barely 2 weeks after 5 people died at Karuku area in Mbeere South Sub-County after consuming illegal alcohol. For Lunchtime News, Efi Nyakidi.
And still on security, an ex-terror suspect who was acquitted of criminal charges by a Nairobi court is now calling on the government to offer him state protection as he fears for his life. Former madrasa teacher and cleric Sheikh Guyo Gorsa served a 4.5 year sentence at the committee maximum security prison, but is now a free man ready to rebuild his life. Guyo had previously requested to remain in the prison for fear of his life, but the request was denied. The ex-terror suspect now hopes that the society will be more accepting of his case. His neighbor and friends are calling on the community to accept the court's decision and integrate him back to the society so that he can lead a normal life once again.
Kwa sababu ile shughuli zangu za kawaida bado sijaanza. Sijaingilia kabisa kama kufunza madrasa, ndio shida ilitokea hapo, kufunza watoto, na bado sijaanza kufunza. Isipokuwa msikiti mara moja kidogo huwa, na nimeanza kidogo kwa msikiti, lakini kwa madrasa bado, kwa sababu hapo kwa watoto ndio mambo za watoto yanakuanga sensitive sana. Nilikuwa mzigo kwa sababu hizo mambo za kesi ni lazima mtu ashughulikie koti, lawyer lazima alipwe, na mtu bado akiwa huko ndani pia kuna vitu anahitaji. Yaani unakuwa burden sasa kwa yule mtu ako nje.
Tulipata shida sana, na mwenye kutegemewa kwa family ni yeye. Yeye ni kama baba hapa, so tuliteseka sana juu ile mahitaji ya plot yeye anasimamia. Ni mimi ndo nilikuwa nashikilia na nilikuwa napata shida sana juu ya hiyo.
In case kuna challenges hata sisi
number of community units from 21 to 44.
Governor Nyong'o commissioned Nyalunya and Chinga Health Services maternity units and Obino dispensary that aims to serve some 21,086 residents within Kisumu East Sub-County.
We have therefore improved the number of our maternity units in the Kisumu East Sub-County. I am happy to note that over the last 6 months alone, out of the 7 new facilities we have operationalized in Kisumu, by equipping and recruiting personnel, 2 of these new units, Obino and Ongadi, are in this sub-county.
The operationalization of the 2 maternity units and the dispensary will go a long way in easing access to quality healthcare services. Reporting for Lunchtime News, I'm Samuel Karaoke.
And from Kisumu County, let's now head over to Kirinyaga County, where Azimio la Umoja presidential candidate Raila Odinga is leading the campaigns and currently making his speech. Let's listen in.
Tuko na ODM, tuko na Wiper, kadhalika. Hiyo ndio demokrasia tulikuwa nataka. Na vile vile sasa tuko na Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. Nikisema Azimio, semani inawezekana. Azimio! 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 Ndio sababu tumefika siku ya leo kuambia nyinyi andu wa Kirinyaga ya kama kumepambauka, kumekucha, jogoo sawika mara 3, amkeni twende kazi. Mko tayari? Mko tayari? Tulisema Kenya iko tayari kwa mabadiliko. Tunataka ukombozi wa 3. Ukombozi wa kwanza ilileta uhuru, ikamaliza ukoloni. Ukombozi wa pili ndio hii naambia nyinyi, ilileta katiba mpya, sio? Na ikaleta ugatuzi, sio? Sasa ukombozi wa 3 na wa mwisho ni ya uchumi, the economic liberation of Kenya. Tunaelewana vizuri? Tunaelewana vizuri? Na ni ya vijana na kina mama. Vijana mko tayari? Mko tayari? Na mama mko tayari? Baba endelee siendelee? Endelee siendelee? Baba nasema baba endelee, nione kwa mkono. Hiyo ndio sababu tumekuja. Huyu mama Martha Wangari Karua tulikuwa naye kwenye hiyo harakati ya ukombozi wa pili. Yeye ni mama shujaa, harudi nyuma. Tukosema tudhie na mbele, tunaenda, sio? Ndio sababu mimi nimeweka yeye kama mgombea mwenza wangu. Sasa mnaunga mkono? Unaunga mkono? Tunataka kuongoza wa Kenya katika harakati ya ukombozi wa 3. Na tunasema sisi kama wa Kenya tuko na adui 4. Adui ngapi? 1 ni ugonjwa, 2 ni ujinga, 3 ni umaskini, alafu 4 ni ufisadi. Ufisadi. Sasa tunasema ufisadi inahujumu mali ya umma, inanyang'anya wananchi haki yao. Mali ya wananchi wanaweka kwa mfuko yao wao wenyewe, kwa maslahi yao. Si unajua hawa watu sahili, yeye anaingia, yeye ni membamba kama shindano, lakini baka ya mwaka 1-2 amefura kama kupe ile ambayo amesafionza damu ya ng'ombe, sio? Mnajua hawa watu tunasema sisi tunataka waweke hao kando. Tukimaliza mambo ya ufisadi, Kenya inaweza kuendelea mbele. Manake tutakuwa na mali ya kutosha kuendelea mbele. Nyinyi mnatoa ushuru kila siku. Kila siku nyinyi mnatoa. Kila siku, upende usipende. Mama akiingia katika duka hii, akinunua pale chumvi ametoa ushuru. Akinunua sukari ametoa ushuru. Akinunua unga ametoa ushuru. Sasa kwa unga hiyo sasa ushuru kubwa kabisa. Akinunua pale soda, ukikunywa ile soda Coca-Cola umelipa ushuru kubwa sana. Kivuta sigara ndani yake, ukikunywa ile one for the road ile, hiyo sasa ni ya mama yake. Hello? Hiyo ni ushuru serikali inagota kwenu, upende usi. Lakini hiyo ushuru anatoka kwako ili akufanye wewe nini? Ili akujengee wewe barabara mzuri. Sawa? Ili alete uwe na maji, ili uwe na stima, ili upate matibabu kama wewe ni mgonjwa. Ajenge hospitali pale na dawa hiyo ndani yake na nasi na daktari, sio? Ili shule zijengwe, watoto wasome sawa sawa na walimu walipe mshahara, sio? Haya ndio sisi tunasema ufisadi inazuia serikali kutoa huduma kama hayo. Sawa sawa? Sawa sawa? Ingine tumesema wafisadi wafanywe nini? Wafanywe nini? Wafanywe nini? Wewe nini? Mpana waleke jela, weke ndani. Hello? Sisi kama
Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga live in Kirinyaga County, where he is talking about it's time for a new government and talking about Kenya is ripe for the third liberations. Incidentally, it is Karua's backyard and she is one of the most instrumental persons in Kenya's third liberations. Today, incidentally, also is Saba mwezi wa saba, and he's talked about 4 enemies, one of them being corruption, and he has talked about the high cost of living and the taxation, and he has promised to check all that if he is elected in to be Kenya's 5th president. We have our very own JJ Kuria who is following up that campaign caravan, and he will be furnishing us with a more detailed report in our subsequent bulletin. Let's now move on. Elsewhere, the Green Africa Foundation has rolled out an initiative to train rural communities to adopt clean and energy-saving cooking solutions. The training involves imparting skills to rural communities on how to use modern energy-saving jikos to cut the consumption of charcoal and firewood.
Speaking during training in Kitui, Green Africa Foundation Executive Director John Kioli, who is also the chairman of Kenya Climate Change Working Group, noted that 600 million Africans still use firewood as the main source of energy for cooking, which has in turn resulted to the destruction of forests and the environment.
Takriban milioni 600 ya Afrika ni watu ambao hawajapata kupata kawi ya kisawasawa, kumaanisha kuwa hawana kawi ya kupikia, hawana kawi ya stima, na sana sana mambo ambayo ni muhimu sana ambayo Green Africa Foundation tunahamasisha watu katika eneo hili la Ukambani, ambapo mambo ya kawi ama energy ni mambo mzito sana.
The products being adopted by the communities include Maendeleo Jiko, which is an improvement of the 3-stone traditional jikos, as well as Jiko Kwa stoves that use minimal charcoal as compared to ordinary charcoal stoves. Likewise, the communities are being introduced to the use of electric pressure cookers that use less electricity, as well as the use of biogas, solar energy, and charcoal briquettes. Mary Kate, a beneficiary of the project and one of the champions of clean cooking technologies, said the energy-saving jikos have helped her family cut on cooking costs in the wake of skyrocketing prices for kerosene.
Tukitumia electrical pressure cooker, hiyo inakuwa rahisi sana kwa sababu mafuta ya taa iko juu. Watu wengine walikuwa wakitumia ile stove ya paraffin. Siku hizi paraffin huwezi kununua kwa sababu iko juu sana.
Victorian Kadha for Lunchtime News.
At about 21 minutes past the hour, we are taking a quick breather. But before we do that, allow me to appreciate Bien Ban, who say you're watching, Pius Mukunyi, you're watching from Ungwaru, Fidelis Manga, you're watching from Voi, Enos Omodi, you say you're watching Lunchtime News from CBD Nairobi, Koki Manthi, you're watching from Machakos. We still have more stories, not forgetting business and also sports. Keep it KBC.
We shall legalize weed.
Professor George Luchiri Wajakoya of the Roots Party.
Semeni Babakea. Babakea.
Raila Amolo Odinga of the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Party.
Unajua mimi sina pesa ya serikali ama ya kashfa.
David Mwaure Wahiga of the Agano Party. And
hakuna kura ya hasla mtaiba.
William Samoei Ruto of the Kenya Kwanza Alliance. Presidential Debate 2022. Do not adjust your sets.
Wiki kwenye Mkulima tutakuonyesha jinsi ya kupanda mboga za kienyeji.
Kitu ambacho nataka kuangalia katika hizi mbegu ni kuna uhusiano upi kati ya hizi mbegu ambazo ni nyekundu, zingine ni nyeupe, ambao unafanya hizi mbegu zipendwe na wadudu.
Kisha kutukuonyeshe jinsi ya kuzitayarisha jikoni. Tukutane Jumapili saa 9:30 kwa Wondo kamili.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back and thanks for keeping it KBC. We still have a conversation that you do not want to miss, all about the fuel prices and the dynamics. The government said it could do away with the subsidies in the coming month. We'll have that discussion with HAS CEO Mohammed Salat. But before that, close to 100 investors in the Naivasha Special Economic Zone will soon be allowed to set up businesses in the 50-acre project. The development of the multi-billion shilling Special Economic Zone has seen local and international investors express willingness to set up shop in the island container depot in Mai Mahiu.
In 2019, the government hived off 50 acres from the project to set up an industrial park as a donation to the small and medium enterprises in Naivasha. The inland container depot is readying itself for value additions, including installation of water and electricity, as well as waste management, among others. Investors who have shown interest in the special economic zone that is currently served by the SGR are set to receive their subleases. The county government says that 80 investors had already been vetted and would be given letters of confirmation to work in the zone.
The planning process is ongoing. We had a joint planning meeting with the ministry, and we were able to get participants give their views, which we are considering, and in a bit we shall be able to release the amended plan so that we allow investors now to start doing their work, constructions, and also bringing business into that area.
She affirmed that the county was committed to wooing investors to the area, describing Naivasha as the fastest growing commercial hub in the region. Waihenya at the same time added that plans to issue Gilgil and Molo with municipality charters were in place a couple of months after Nakuru became a city. This would also ease the process of getting licenses for investors keen on the special economic zone.
So we've put in processes that will facilitate, will make it easier for them to be able to get their licenses, to be able to set up their businesses, to be able to set up the constructions that they want to do.
The railway infrastructure in the area will support the special economic zones, with an interchange being developed between the SGR and the meter gauge track, as well as transshipment facilities around Mai Mahiu, with road and rail links to the Suswa-Longonot line. Ndutamo Kami for Lunchtime News.
Sri Lanka's president has asked Russia's President Vladimir Putin to help his cash-strapped nation import fuel as it faces its worst economic crisis. Sri Lanka's energy minister warned during the weekend that the country may soon run out of petrol. And more in our global business roundup.
Russia in recent months to help bolster fuel supplies during the crisis, and the government has signaled that it is willing to buy more from the energy-rich country. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka raised its key interest rates by 1 percentage point to tackle the soaring cost of living in the country. The lending rate was raised to 15.5%, while the deposit rate was increased to 14.5%, the highest in 21 years. It comes as annual inflation hit a record high of 54.6% in June, as the cost of food rose by more than 80%. To add to Colombo's woes, Aeroflot suspended Moscow-Colombo passenger flight service last month after a Sri Lankan court briefly detained one of its planes following a commercial dispute over payment. Sri Lanka has seen its foreign exchange reserve shrink due to economic mismanagement and the impact of the pandemic. Meanwhile, British Airways is to cut 10,300 more short-haul flights due to features in its schedule between August and the end of October. The latest announcement means nearly 30,000 flights will have been removed from the BS schedule between April and October this year. The cancellation affects London's Heathrow, Gatwick and City airports. The industry has struggled with staff shortages as demand for air travel has rebounded after the COVID-19 restrictions. These flight cancellations come ahead of Friday deadline announced last month by the Department for Transport for an amnesty to give airlines a short window to hand back without facing the usual penalty. Any airport slot in the summer season they are not confident they will not be able to operate. The intention is to reduce the chances of disruption and let notice cancellation over the summer by making schedules more resilient. Finally, oil and gas producer Shell said it will reverse up to $4.5 billion to write-downs on oil and gas assets after it raised its energy price outlook following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In an update before second quarter results on July 28th, Shell's refining margin almost tripled over the period, boosted by recovering global demand from the pandemic, a lack of refining capacity and lower fuel exports from Russia. Shell's indicative refining margin rose in the second quarter to $28.04 per barrel from $10.23 a barrel in the first quarter and $4.17 a year earlier. Oil and gas prices remained elevated in the quarter, with benchmark Brent crude averaging about $114 a barrel. Shell's oil and gas production was expected to be up 2.93 million barrels of oil equivalent per day, its lowest in at least 7 years, as a result of high field maintenance. Terry Njenga, Lunch.
And that report, and more specifically the Sri Lanka one on fuel, takes us to our interactive segment. And you bear me witness that in the country for the last couple of months, the fuel prices have made things crazy in the country, to the point that basic commodities are out of reach for most Kenyans. But the situation is not only being exacerbated by the political landscape we have in the country, the war in Ukraine. They've talked about the war in Ukraine and the recession that is currently underway in so many countries. But to help us shed more light on the Kenyan situation, we have Mahmoud Salat, who is the Group CEO of Has Petroleum. Karibu sana.
Pleasure, thank you.
We have seen in Sri Lanka, the situation is a little bit dire than the situation we have in the country. Looking at the current fuel prices trend, will consumers, according to you, find a reprieve?
And the answer will be yes, but the good question will be when. So what we've seen the last few days is a drop in oil prices, the crude oil prices. Mm-hmm. Definitely we'll enjoy that drop. But unfortunately, I think we have a lag of about a month or two before we realize that significant drop that happened at the crude level. But of course, we can't compare ourselves with Sri Lanka. I think Sri Lanka is a country that has now gone bust. It's not just oil. They are really having tough time economically. Mm-hmm. Yes. So
you're saying the situation could be even worse than what we are experiencing here in Africa, to be specific?
Look, and Ben, honestly speaking, it's been a tough time time period for any country that is not oil producing. We've seen the skyrocketing of energy prices across, and the impact that has across the economy is something that you cannot ignore at any point in time. Mm-hmm. So in our case, what I will say is we had last month when prices have been only increased by 9 shilling only, mm-hmm. because the impact is there's over 40 shilling on diesel and 25 shilling on petrol that the government has given out as subsidy. Mm-hmm. The reality is, if you compare the prices of crude oil in the month of May and June, mm-hmm. There's been a significant jump, mm-hmm. and that jump will now be realized this month when we're doing the next pricing. Mm-hmm. Where I sit, of course, the prices has not yet, the price has not yet been communicated, but we're expecting up to maybe 50 shilling jump in prices. out of which the government will decide, how much to take subsidy, how much to jump. Of course, we are all cognizant it's the last month to election, so the government will try to be as generous as they can to make sure this month is covered. But it's not been easy, and you are talking about not any other product, you're talking about energy, which is an input cost to any other production or service industry.
Well, that could scare a lot of Kenyans. The Treasury has, you've talked about, we'll see what the government could give us subsidies, but the Treasury did talk about scrapping the fuel subsidy. Should consumers be worried?
Look, what I will say is consumers will anyway be worried, but if you ask today what is the prices of fuel in Uganda, Kampala right next to us, versus Kenya, you will see the difference, and that is simply because the government there does not do subsidy of any case. Now, for our country, Kenya, yes, with the expulsion or once they stop providing subsidy, then it will be a tough time. But what I can say is generally in economics there is what they call demand destruction. A product prices will reach certain level when it's not sustainable and people will stop consuming that product. So we have not reached that time, but honestly speaking, it's been tough times. We're talking about large economies like the US talking about recession or impeding recession and so on. So it's not easy, but what I can say is over time or ultimately people will consume a product to the extent they can pay for it.
And it has been largely blamed on the Russia-Ukraine war, but some countries are having it a little bit easier than others. And what is the situation in other countries? Somebody had suggested that oil-producing countries, so as to at least subsidize the prices, they could actually refine the oil themselves and at least have some to balance the equation when it comes to the fuel prices. Is that something that can be explored?
True. The conversation has been a lot to do with the supply versus demand. We've been seeing increase in demand, especially post-COVID, when economies are recovering. And we've seen, the supply side not coming along. But when you talk about oil, there's a lot of other politics beyond it. So today, Venezuela, which is the biggest oil deposits in the world, a market like a country like Iran, all this kind of supply are not available to the market. If you go back, reason will be sanctions. So I guess it's time for, globally people sit down and provide solution beyond the Ukraine-Russia war. I think we all appreciate that Russia is one of the key producers of oil. And once you have this kind of molecules out of the market, this kind of imbalance in between the supply and demand is anyway expected. So as you said, yes, the best way to reverse the trend is to increase supply. And increase supply means the existing oil producing nation to increase the amount of output they are bringing out to the market. But equally, economies or markets that are not now available to the rest of the world, like the Venezuelan and Iranian molecule, need to come to the market in some form or shape.
Yeah.
Yes.
And looking at, you even alluded to the fact that the global price is going down. Are we expecting to see that in the third and fourth quarter? And what does it mean for countries like Kenya?
Look, if you look at the analyst or expert discussion around why the prices have dropped now, it goes beyond, the increased supply. Of course, there's an element of supply, but equally there is the impending recession and the fears around it, where people are like, this price is not sustainable. So unfortunately, how long will this price drop sustain is the key question, and most of the analysts or experts don't have answers for how long do you enjoy this reduction. But I think as a country, this kind of reduction we have not yet enjoyed because of the lag that we have. So I mentioned to you the month of May was high, and that's why we had that kind of an impact. We have June, which is even higher than May when you talk about the global setup. So that is why I'm talking about next month or this month pricing will be slightly higher. Then July, when the prices have dropped, is when we'll enjoy, that reduction. And in our case, that will be the pricing of August, September.
Now, and also we are in an electioneering period, and of course the economy always gets a hit each and every time we go to the elections. Are we supposed to see, or does it have big impact on the prices now that they're quite down, the energy prices as a whole? And also I noticed that you've also started a power plant or something. Can you kindly explain that and how we are supposed to benefit as Kenyans?
Good. So, historically we are used to a period whenever it is next to election, then we have the fears, especially investors and foreign investors for that matter, and the foreign direct outflow or the investment outflow and the impact of the economy. That is what we are used to in most of the time. So in our case this time round, we have myriad of issues. We have rising energy prices. We are talking about the basic commodities prices also going high, whether it is as an impact of oil or otherwise. We've got reduction or reduced availability of food generally, even as whatever we are known for producing, we have not produced the best as we've known in terms of quantities and volume. So generally we're going to an election with all its uncertainties, but again with a lot of economic uncertainties. And that's why if today you're the next person taking over this country, then you must think outside the box. While these prices have been going up, surprisingly for me, I haven't heard anything about us increasing or fast-tracking our Turkana exploration and so on, just to bring a reprieve to the economy. So whoever takes over must think outside the box and provide solution to an economy that is beaten in almost all angles. Now, coming back to your other question about us, I guess for us, what we are thinking is, what is the consumer thinking? And we've seen several electric vehicles in the market. If you are ardent user of these uprights like Bolt and so on, you'll see gas-powered vehicles in the market. So as has what we've done is we are now making sure the suppliers, our consumers can get an alternative to oil or fuel for that matter, alongside their fuel consumption. So you will see electric charging ports in our Kasarani station. In our Rongai station, we are talking about autogas, which is filling gas-powered motor vehicle. So we're thinking alongside the consumer's thoughts as far as these challenges are concerned.
Indeed, thank you so much, Mohammed Salat.
Nice having you.
He is the CEO, Group CEO actually, of Haas Petroleum. They are trying to help us understand the fuel dynamics and also the energy itself, because it's not only the fuel that has gone up. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you, sir.
Moving on, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. We'll have that a little bit later, but all right, I'm told it is ready. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has committed to ensure transparency in the electoral processes before and during the general election. The IEBC says access to the polling station as well as the transport and storage of 22 million ballot papers will be granted to observers, media and party agents to ensure a free and fair election.
The Kenya Private Sector Alliance KEPSA reported that in 2017, Kenya's economy plunged because of reduced economic activities fueled by uncertainties regarding the outcome of the general elections. But IEBC has today assured stakeholders of a secure, free and fair election, adding that safeguards have been put in place to de-risk economic disruptions.
The Commission has prepared for this election more than ever before, and we are committed to ensuring that we have a transparent process. We are going to give Kenyans a free, fair and credible election.
The private sector, led by KEPSA and Mkenya Daima, noted that these coming elections should be a peaceful one, given that the country is still looking to fully recover from the COVID-19 misfortunes.
This is particularly exacerbated also by the post-COVID pandemic. It has been a period from 2020 where businesses have really suffered. And of course, and we are sort of working towards making it better. And then now we have this global recession. We also have people who are challenged with losing their jobs, inflation, and it's global inflation.
As we look forward to the general elections in the next 33 days, and learning from the previous ones, we acknowledge that it is imperative for us all to work together to ensure a peaceful, free, fair and credible election.
The private sector says it is ready to fully collaborate with the IEBC in delivering successful elections. This even as the IEBC announced that it has also already engaged the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, the National Police Service, the judiciary, among other stakeholders, to ensure confidence in the upcoming elections, assuring the business community of stability.
Where we have been assured that we have sufficient police officers to protect Kenyans during this period of elections. I want to assure business people and other Kenyans that they should not worry during election time. Just go vote and go about your what you do.
The Commission also assured stakeholders of ironclad technologies to be used as the first batch of election materials arrive with tamper-proof security features. Alan Auko, Lunchtime News.
Now, Kenya has today joined the world in marking the World Kiswahili Language Day for the first time after the UNESCO declaration. Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala appealed to all education institutions, universities and TVETs to embrace Kiswahili as the first language, as it will go a long way in easing communication, promote culture, trade and unity across the region.
Zungumzwa kama lugha ya lazima kwenye mafunzo yote toka shule za upili hata shule za sekondari. Ndiposa pia tunataka ihimizwe kwa maeneo yote ya serikali lazima iwe ni lugha mbili, moja ya Kimombo na moja ya Kiswahili. Lakini hiyo ndio maana kueneza lugha hii. Na lazima sisi sote tutafute siku kama ya Ijumaa tuzungumze lugha ya Kiswahili, tuvae mavazi yetu ya Kiafrika, ndiposa tutambulike na tupate heshima yetu kama Waafrika.
Tunachukulia kwamba lugha ambayo itakunufaisha zaidi ni lugha ya Kiingereza, ndio itakufungulia njia, ndio itakayokuonyesha kwamba wewe umesoma sana. Lakini sisi tunasema hivi kwamba unapojifundisha Kiswahili haina maana kwamba usijue Kiingereza. Tunasema ujue Kiingereza vizuri na ujue Kiswahili vizuri. Ukijua lugha zote vizuri sana, utakuwa unajiimarisha mwenyewe, utajiamini vizuri zaidi. Wewe fikiria, maana sisi kama Wanaafrika Mashariki tunaenda kwenye mikutano ya kisiri katika nchi za nje. Na wakati wa kushauriana, tunashauriana kwa lugha ya Kiingereza.
Today is also an instrumental day for Kenya, as it is Saba Saba. It will be remembered for the clamor for multi-partyism. Elsewhere, South African farmers may resort to planting fewer crops as persistent load shedding disrupts planting schedules, and spiraling fuel prices make it more expensive to undertake daily farming operations. This is according to Agri-SA Executive Director Christo van der Ried, who believes that the current challenges faced by the country's food producers could have serious repercussions not only for the sector, but for food security too. Details of this and more in our Continental Business Roundup.
With Eskom placing the entire country on a power supply roster, farmers, especially those who are dependent on the national grid, are left unable to use pumping stations, irrigation, cooling and other systems which are critical to their operations. Farmers are already reporting huge losses as processing machinery, irrigation, equipment and other machinery are damaged and come to a standstill due to power outages. Load shedding has also hit farmers hard in terms of trading with retailers as they struggle. The May 2022 Agriculture Producer Price Index increased by 19.3% year-on, with sharp increases of 30.8% year-on-year for the cereals and other crops and 20.8% year-on-year for the fruit and vegetable subcategories. On Wednesday, the price of petrol was between 2.37 rand and 2.57 rand, more expensive per litre, while diesel was between 2.30 rand and 2.301 price per litre. Meanwhile, food prices soared in Ethiopia on Wednesday after the government reduced subsidies, adding to economic hardship for people already struggling with high inflation. There were long queues at petrol stations in the capital Addis Ababa, with drivers reporting shortages as they tried to fill up their tanks. The price of petrol at the pump jumped almost 30%, while diesel went up almost 40%. Price of fuel, food and other basic goods have rocketed globally because of the Ukraine war, hitting vulnerable countries in Africa and elsewhere. The Horn of Africa country of more than 110 million people has seen inflation hovering around 35% over the past 6 months, with food prices in particular registering a sharp rise. The global surge in prices for basic goods has also eaten into the foreign exchange reserve of the largely importing nation. Imports of petroleum products in the first 9 months of the 2021-2022 fiscal year has jumped by 75% to $2.2 billion, and those of cereals by 121% to $1.8 billion. Finally, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe auctioned foreign currency, which was not available earlier this year, triggering an allotment backlog. Companies have been at loggerheads with the central bank after it failed to allot the foreign currency with a backlog of about 10 weeks, a situation that left companies exposed and struggling to restock due to limited working capital. Captains of industry have condemned the RBZ for flouting the foreign currency auction system rules, resulting in the forex backlog swelling to about $156 million. Instead, the RBZ was allowing the lowest bidder to access forex ahead of the highest bidder. Terry Njenga, Lunchtime News.
And closer home, Gong Land Registry surveyors in Kajiado County are on the spot over multiple illegal land subdivisions in their area of jurisdiction. The officers are said to be colluding with unscrupulous land dealers to subdivide public utility plots, resulting in land ownership wrangles.
Residents say the problem is persistent in most parts of Kajiado, especially in urban centers where original chunks of land have been subdivided into plots without provision of access roads, denying locals access to basic needs.
Imeathiri watu wengi kwa sababu barabara zote za town planning, hata tukiangalia kwenye map, zimeelekezwa kwa hiyo barabara. Kwa hivyo wamefungia wengi. Sababu si haki mtu kufunga barabara ambayo inafaa kutumika.
Queen Seki, a widow from Kisamis, Kajiado West Sub-County, fell victim to the rogue surveyors after her 1-acre land was subdivided, leaving her with no access route, power and water, as she has to seek electricity where live from a neighbor.
Karudi nikafikiria sasa naweza kukatakata to plot niweze vijana wangu waweze kukaa. Kwa sababu sina stima saa hii na sina maji na sina barabara, omba nisaidiwe sababu mimi ni single mother, sina mtu anaweza kunishikilia, ni serikali tu inaweza kusimama na mimi saa hizi.
Although she was armed with documents from the Ngong Registry Office and a title deed, a letter from the Director of Survey Kenya, Maritime Weldon, quashed the land mutation done by the surveyor, indicating that the access road was meant to only serve one parcel of land. The Kajiado DCI office is also investigating a case of obtaining land registration by false pretenses, contrary to the law.
In sports, embattled former Football Kenya Federation President Nick Mwendwa has been rearrested a few hours after his case was thrown out by the Anti-Corruption Court due to lack of evidence. According to police, Mwendwa, who was arrested this morning at his house in Kiambu Road, is being grilled at the DCI headquarters ahead of being arraigned in Kiambu Law Courts later this afternoon. The Anti-Corruption Court in Nairobi withdrew his case of alleged misappropriation of Football Kenya Federation funds after the prosecution failed to provide evidence. A statement from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution said the case was not terminated but was withdrawn to enable the prosecution review the additional evidence. Mwendwa had been accused to have conspired to defraud the Football Kenya Federation of over 30 million shillings. Elsewhere, Beth Mead helped England get off to a winning start at the Euro 2022 as they beat Austria 1-0 in front of a record crowd at the European Women's Championship game at Old Trafford. Sarima Wigman's side face arguably the toughest test of the group stages on Monday when they take on Norway, ranked 11th in the world.
winger chested down Franz Kibes, lifted pass and deftly touched it over to club teammate Manuela Zinsberger after just 16 minutes. The early goal settled England's nerves and quickly began to dominate Manchester, giving them an early win. Mead, Georgia Stanley and Kibe offered plenty of creativity and movement in the first half, and one criticism may be have England's lack of ruthlessness. The Lionesses, who are in Group A with Austria, Northern Ireland and Norway, are aiming to win their first major tournament and have started their bid, extending their unbeaten run 15 matches. Serena Wigsman side face arguably their toughest test of the group stage on Monday when they take Norway, ranked 11th in the world. King Ormwangi for Sports News.
And Nick Kyrgios reached his first Grand Slam singles semi-final with a straight-set victory over Chile's Christian Garin at Wimbledon. Kyrgios won 6-4, 6-3, 7-6 to become the first Australian man since 2005 to reach the last four of the tournament. The world number 40 is the lowest-ranked men's semi-finalist at Wimbledon since 2008, when 75-ranked and 94-ranked Rainer Schutzler advanced. The 27-year-old will face Rafael Nadal on Friday. That's all the time we had for KBC Lunchtime News on this Thursday. Thank you so much for keeping me company. Of course, for more news, we have our subsequent bulletin at 4, 7, and also at 9. But for a quick one, just log on to www.kbc.co.ke and also our social media platform. My name is Njue, and Wangeshi has been our sign language interpreter for this live newscast. Have yourself a blessed afternoon.
The countdown is on. With less than 5 weeks remaining, the gubernatorial race is smoking hot. Migori County are yet to choose who will lead the county. But first, let's get to know the candidates' development agenda. This Thursday on 7th July, tune in to KBC Channel 1 from 9:50 p.m. for a live Migori County gubernatorial debate from Rongo University.
Mimi pia wewe hujamuona.
Unasema unanishuku. Unanishuku tu kwa sababu gani?
Unajua Leo, mimi nishaye kumsikia Maya mara kadhaa akisema kuwa wewe na Jack mnajuana.
Siogopi bwana. Na wala hapa sijafukuzwa mimi.
Analo linalomsumbua. Ukimuuliza atakwambia.
Yaani hamwezi fanya kazi kimya bila kusengenyana.
Kama huyo msichana wako amekuacha, jipange na wache kusumbua watu.
Hujambo na karibu katika makala ya maisha kutoka BBC. Makala yanakusaidia kuwajibikia afya yako. Mimi ni Dayo Yusuf. Kumbuka unaweza kuyapata matangazo haya kupitia mtandao wa Facebook BBC Swahili, Twitter @BBC Swahili, #maisha. Wiki hii katika maisha. Virusi vya monkeypox. Kuna hofu ya maambukizi, na upi ukweli kuhusu maradhi haya? Wana jina maalum, ila baadhi ya mtindo wa maisha yao unaathiri afya yao. Tutaangazia tatizo linalosababishwa na baadhi ya dawa za matibabu. Karibu. Kabla ya kuanza matangazo haya na kutahadharisha kwamba baadhi ya picha yanaweza kusumbua. Ikiwa bado unawaza kuhusu maradhi ya COVID-19, pole. Sio lengo langu kukutisha, lakini kuna virusi vipi ambavyo vimeripotiwa duniani? Monkeypox. Kabla ya mlipuko wa sasa, virusi hivi viliwahi kuripotiwa katika Jamhuri ya Kidemokrasia ya Kongo, Jamhuri ya Afrika ya Kati, Cameroon au hata Nigeria. Baadhi ya dalili zake ni sawa na zile za tetekuwanga au ndui. Mwandishi wetu Roda Odhiambo anatathmini zaidi.
Kwa kila taarifa ya habari unafahamishwa kuhusu virusi vya monkeypox. Wakati dunia nzima ikiendelea kukabili janga la COVID-19, wengi huenda wakahoji iwapo virusi hivi ni maradhi mpya, na je, kuna hofu ya maambukizi? Ni kawaida kwa mtu yoyote kuwa na hofu wakati inaporipotiwa mlipuko wa maradhi yoyote. Kwanza, upi ukweli kuhusu ugonjwa huu? Monkeypox ni maradhi yanayosababishwa na virusi vya monkeypox. Ina dalili sawa na za ndui, ila dalili hizi hazina makali kama ile ya ndui. Wataalamu wanasema kasi ya maambukizi ipo chini. Ugonjwa huu hupatikana sana sana katika Jamhuri ya Demokrasia ya Kongo, Cameroon, Jamhuri ya Afrika ya Kati na Nigeria. Hulenga sana jamii zinazoishi karibu na misitu. Wataalamu wanasema kuna aina mbili ya virusi hivi, aina ya virusi vinavyopatikana Afrika Magharibi na Afrika ya Kati. Kwa nini basi virusi hivi huitwa jina monkeypox? Virusi vya monkeypox viligunduliwa mwaka 1958. Vilipatikana kwenye kundi fulani la nyani ambao walihifadhiwa kwa minajili ya utafiti